Yoga, yoga, it's that time. So let's do it. All right. Oh, hang on, I left a door open. Okay, Bobby. Callie's at attention, ready for the yoga? Yeah, good girl. All right, good morning. Well, let's get on started here. Getting cozy, getting ready. Finding how you want to get started today, how you want to sense into that body. Always just taking a few minutes to do so at the beginning of class. Just kind of helping whatever else has been going on before you made it to your mat. Not bringing all of that onto your mat. We always have different thoughts, and sometimes it's hard to fully transition from one activity to the next. And those transitions are really important. As they find more people working from home, they're finding that that transition from work to home, like that drive, was a big part of leaving the office at the office, or just that separation. And now that people are sharing the space, they don't have that commuter time. And so, how can you transition your mind from one thing to the next? Because it does actually take a bit of time. There's a bit of processing that needs to happen there. And so this is what this skill can be used for. Maybe you just take a few deep breaths before you leave your home office space or whatever space that you call work. Leave it there and then enter the next place. And what a great way to just close the book, grab the next book and open it, or find the next chapter. So transitioning, not only important as we move from one pose to the next, but as we enter one phase to the next throughout our days. And that's one thing that I really love to take a little bit of extra time on, is making sure that you're moving from one pose to the next. That's why I don't teach super fast. I don't always move exactly with the breath, because sometimes you need an extra breath to do something, and I don't want to leave anyone behind. So let that be your invitation to feel the things out that you need to be feeling, to move as you need to move and as your body tells you to. Yes, it is delightful to show up to a class and be told what to do, but I challenge you to take the extra and adapt and customize so that you're getting your very own beautiful class. So as you roll those shoulders back and down and relax that jaw, start to notice the breath and taking those inhales, softly filling everything up, and those exhales, taking that ever so release back down, letting that breath be full, using the full capacity of the lung, the diaphragm, and feeling how it starts to impact the rest of you. Your focus might change, shift, being a little bit more adapted to this present moment. Maybe the body starts to relax a little bit more. You can do things with ease. Just letting there be a sense of stillness and calm as you just continue to breathe in and out. Let's start to add on to our breath, coming into more of an Ujjayi style breath, where the inhales are still full, especially using that diaphragm, but things start to switch. And so on that exhale, you start to feel strong. You start to make a little bit of noise, like you're trying to fog up that mirror, that glass, that but with your mouth closed. So on the next exhale, start to let there be a little audible sound to the breath as you inhale and exhale. Ujjayi breath also can switch how the body is relaxing. You actually start to relax on the inhale and you engage on the exhale. It's a nice strong breath. So feel that little bit of engagement, that tensing that happens through that abdominal space. And then on the inhale, things start to relax, come back to that neutral and expand. And on the exhale, you come into that strong feeling, strong sensation. Taking just 3 or 4 more of these big engaged Ujjayi breaths. And then keeping that breath or letting it balance out to something maybe a little bit more comfortable or that you're used to. Setting that intention, finding that little word or phrase that you need. And starting to find some movements. Let's wake that body up. Little wiggles, little squeezes. And letting that body do what it needs to. Oh, yeah. Feeling where you want to feel it. I've been all about giving my hands some extra love, a little extra stretch and a little massage. Getting into the wrists just nice and gently. But maybe it's your neck that you want to get into a little more. Maybe it's your feet. Or maybe you even, with your hands, give a part of your legs or a part of your body a little rub or massage. Excellent. And if you're seated, let's make our way down onto the back. Just doing a few warm-up moves there. Laying down. Finding that nice starting position. Take a little tuck of the chin. Roll those shoulders. Still backing down here. Find that beautiful good morning stretch. Reach it up nice and long and tall. Take a big breath in. Maybe have a little yawn and stretch the jaw out too. Maybe feel that length through the arms, shoulders, ribs. Oh, let it feel so lengthened and stretchy. Take a nice big exhale. Let everything soften and relax. Let's take another big breath in. Reach those arms up long. Maybe interlace the fingers and gently pull one hand in the next. Maybe you extend through the legs or point the toes. So good. Take a nice exhale, soften. Start to let those hands start to journey down alongside the body. Start to hug one knee in and the next, or hug both knees in. Coming into now that low back pressing on the ground. Take a little rock from side to side. Let those shoulders relax. Excellent. And then come into stillness. Let's ground into a little tiny ball just right off the start here. Give that back little stretch as you lift the head and the shoulders up. A little engagement through those upper abdominals as you really kind of squeeze those shoulders close. Think about squeezing them closer to the ankles. So still keep those shoulders down. Excellent. Take that nice release. Release just the head and shoulders back down onto the mat. Keep those knees hugged in over the body. Beautiful. Let's take an inhale. Reach those arms up. Take a bend. See if you can grab onto the top of your mat here. So we're going to just play around with engaging some different muscles. You can bring the fingertips down, but I like to actually hold on to something as we find some more different movements here. So really plant those shoulders down onto the ground. The elbows can be a little bit wider. I like to try to still keep them up towards the ceiling. And then see if you can just kind of pull just a little bit. And then what's going on with low back? Did it start to float up off the ground here? Let's engage, press it down. Feel how we're using those back muscles, those shoulder muscles. All right. And then let's start to do a little something with the feet. So keeping that low back pressing down. We'll take just a few little toe taps. So we've done toe taps before, but this way we're adding on a little something with the arms with it. And taking a little movement. Either just touching those toes down really close, or of course if you want that extra challenge, start to bring those feet farther away, but keep that low back pressing down. We haven't done anything where we've engaged through the arms or the shoulders here before, and so keep checking in with that low back. So we're working into that deep core, and then we're also working into those upper abdominals without needing to lift the head and shoulders up off the ground, by creating that little pull sensation with the arms. Beautiful. We'll take just a few more here. I know these are a little bit extra challenging. We're probably working some muscle, or I'm working muscles that I don't always get deep into. So just taking one more breath here. And then planting those feet down. Release those arms alongside the body. And take a little windshield wiper. Just let those knees either wiggle from side to side or drop down from one side to the next. Beautiful. And come into stillness, letting those knees point up towards the ceiling, feet rooting right on down and in. Let's bring those hands nicely along the side of the body, just out a little bit. Make sure you've got room to actually plant and place those elbows or hands down onto the ground. And we'll keep that left foot planted. Let the right knee open up off to the side. And that hip will probably pull or lean over to that right side. But let's think about planting that left sits bone or hip bone back down. Feel that bit of openness. Start here. And then we're gonna come into some other little movements. So once that right leg feels nice and solid, let's engage. Press the outer line of that leg down. So feel that little tuck of the tailbone that just happened under. Think about pressing the ankle down, the outer edge of the knee down. So you're getting a little more inner thigh stretch, or right into that hip socket is where I feel it tons. Getting some stretch, just keeping that engagement. The left knee is still pointing up towards the ceiling. Beautiful. And taking another breath or two here. Keep that tuck of the chin. Keep that engagement nice and strong. Keep the shoulders maybe pressing in, or at least relax down. Remembering to breathe here. So we're keeping this engagement, keep squeezing or pressing it into the ground. It's not really a squeezing motion, it's really active, like you're trying to drill a hole right through the floor. And then take a big exhale, let everything soften, let those glutes relax. Feel how that left hip just naturally melts on back down. Beautiful. And then let's start to hug that right knee in towards the body, giving it a nice squeeze. You're holding however you want, the shin, the knee, the back of the knee. One more breath. And take an exhale. And plant that right foot down. Beautiful. Let those knees flop on open. Come into a little cobbler pose. Notice the difference between left side and right side. Taking just a few breaths there. Keep that low back planted in. And just give me half a second. I'll get meal for you guys. Sorry to leave you in cobbler pose. Bring those knees right on back up, and let's take the reverse of that. So planting those feet down, walking them wide. Let those knees just fall inward. Take just a breath or two. Really try to focus in on that internal rotation happening in at the hips. So maybe walk your feet a little farther away from those sits bones. Just see how that feels. Maybe that's more of your sweet spot. I always find this one harder. We don't get a lot of internal rotation, and especially in yoga. This is one of the few poses. And I even like to add a little sway to my knees side to side, just to, I like to pulse things out, so just to create a little movement in there. Excellent. And then let's come to that stillness. Let's heel toe those feet back in and back up towards the sits bones, right where you would naturally plant them down. Start to connect that low back down. And now keep that right foot planted. Let the left leg drop on open. You can roll onto that side just a little bit, just to help that leg really kind of connect down. And then start to think about pressing that right hip right on back down. It's okay if it doesn't go all the way. It's just that intention of trying to roll that hip open. So very similar to what we would do in our warrior two when we're standing, pressing the knee open and finding openness through that hip. Same thing, but now that hip is nice and supported with the ground underneath. So let's start to activate even deeper here now, pressing into the outer ankle and the foot. And the glute will start to squeeze and engage as you press the outer leg down. Think about pressing the knee down. Start to try to feel something through that hip. Maybe feel a lot, maybe feel a little. I feel just all through that hip socket, starting to target in on all of those tendons that are involved there. Finding the breath, not holding the breath here. Keep pressing down, keep it being nice and active. Relax the jaw and the forehead. Excellent. Keep it going just for one more round of breath here as you really engage. Press, press, press. And take a big exhale, let the body relax. Glutes are at ease. Wonderful. So just slowly, gently bring that left knee right on back up. Excellent. This time we'll walk the feet wide. Let those knees drop in first. So just really trying to get that external rotation. I'm even going to press a little bit more into the hips and into that low back area. So it's almost like my hips are just kind of floating, like they're still touching the ground, but it's not like I'm putting all of my weight in my hips and none in my feet, just swapping that around. I just like that sensation. It's just a little different after we do such a big, not only external rotation stretch, but engagement through stretch. I love to just really counter that with some internal rotation. I'm going to add a little sway to the knees as well. Just kind of dropping one down and then the next. Getting a little deeper. And then come into that stillness. Walking those feet back towards center. But let's give that left knee a nice hug and a nice squeeze. We did it on the other side, so we'll just kind of balance it out. You can keep that right foot just planted in, just to stretch through that glute. Feel that little bit of tension build up through that left crease of the hip. If you feel this anywhere else, let me know where you feel it. This is where my hip feels it, is right in that crease. Beautiful. All right, take a nice relax. Plant that left leg long and send both legs nice and long. Take a nice inhale, sweep those arms up overhead. Point the toes here. And extend, maybe link I have the thumbs linked, so instead of my steeple, I love to just link one thumb over the next and have the fingers shooting along and the palms together. Draw that low back down here. Feel the shoulders roll back and down. So I'm trying to keep more of the spine here. Take a flex of the feet. You might find that a little easier. I've got a little squeeze through the glutes happening as I'm working on pressing that low back down. Excellent. And keep flexing through the feet, so not only toes up towards ceiling, but extending or engaging through the heels. Maybe you start to feel that through the Achilles a little bit. And then let's come back to that point of the toes, getting into the top of the heel or the top of the foot. And take a nice exhale, let everything release. Think about making a starfish shape or more of a pentacle shape, finding some width between the feet. They can come off the edges of the mat. The arms kind of make the Y's in YMCA. Just a big old breath here. This is a great Shavasana alternative. I really just like this one as well. Excellent. And then we'll make our way up to a seated position. So maybe you start to roll onto your side. Maybe you hug your knees in and roll up. Pick your poison today, however you want to come up to seated. I'm going to take the side and press on up. That feels good. Oh. And we'll sit with our legs extended long and nice and wide. Trying to find some length through that spine. If you're still coming up to seated, maybe you get a block or a cushion to sit on. A little bit of height here is really helpful on the low back. Maybe that works for your body, maybe it doesn't. I'm actually going to use the block today. My low back is feeling it. Oh yeah. For me, this is magic. Even if the block is too high, like a little rolled up blanket or folded blanket, also does the trick. All right, let's start to think about bringing those toes up to ceiling and seeing if we can get those shoulders over the hips. Taking a big breath in, let those shoulders roll back and down, and let's lengthen, sitting up nice and tall. If those low ribs are floating out or if you're arching or still hunching through the back, let's find some length through the spine. Our muscles are working hard here. We're really using those postural muscles through not only the back of the body, but the front too. So we're actually getting into that core. I really notice that with the legs extended and wide. But maybe this feels easier for you. Maybe this is more of your sweet spot. I like the cross-legged sit more regularly. So this is a nice challenge for me, but maybe this is more natural for you. And start to connect in with that breath. Excellent. Let's take an inhale. Take a nice big sweep up of the arms. Come into your boss arms. Try not to press the head forward. Keep the head pressing back. Let those elbows really open up. Beautiful. And let's tip over towards one side. I'm on a block, so I'm just tipping over it ever so little bit because I don't want to fall off the block, but still get a nice side body stretch. Keep those elbows open, like you're trying to press the heart forward a little bit. Stabilize into those legs, and let's come on back up. Take a breath in, spine is long, still not pressing the head forward. Beautiful. Let's tip on over to that other side. Beautiful. Try to keep those toes still up to the ceiling here. Excellent. Let's come on back up. And let's take a little bow coming forward. So nice flat back here. Just a little hinge at the hips. Still trying to press the head back. Still opening up through those shoulders. And then press back up. Beautiful. Release those hands down. Take a little roll through the shoulders. Beautiful. Let's bring both hands onto one leg. Feel that little bit of a twist that happens through the body as you align those shoulders forward or with the leg. And take that breath in to lengthen. Take an exhale. Just start to slide the hands down the leg. Try to keep the back flat here at first. We will eventually round. Keep those toes pressing up on both feet. So maybe take a little glance, making sure you're looking at both of them. Finding just that little version of a forward fold. I start to feel this through the hamstring and even into the glute. If you feel this lots, you can always take a gentle bend to the back of the knee, trying not to hyperextend. You can still hyperextend even though you have the support of the ground underneath. It's always being mindful of what you got to do. Maybe you find a bit more depth as we continue to hold here. Feel free to adjust and lengthen as you need. And then let the head drop. Take a round of the shoulders. Let that body relax except for the legs. The legs are still keeping those toes up. And I'm still even pressing a little bit into my heels, but that's probably from the height that I have under my sits bones. All right, let's start to round up vertebrae by vertebrae. Coming back towards center. Excellent. I'm going to bring my hands just back behind me. This is where I feel a little more supported. And just like you would in a seated cat-cow, lift that heart up towards, take a nice little back bend here to counter that forward fold. So I have the weight pressing into my hands. Just like the Care Bears, shoot that love from the heart right up to the ceiling. Stay in control of the neck. Just a little rounding through the spine is all I'm trying to achieve here. Maybe feel openness through the front of the body. And then tuck that chin towards collarbone. Come on back up. Beautiful. Let's take an inhale, a nice big stretch. Get a stretch through those arms up. Take an exhale, hands down towards heart center. Take an inhale. Take a few of these little reach ups. And hands to heart. Breathing in, reach up tall. Exhale, hands to heart. Long through the spine. Toes still up towards ceiling. Just check in with those legs, how they're doing. And then take that little bit of a twist, aligning the shoulders now with that other leg coming into the other side. Let the hands just rest on the leg. Find your height. I find whatever foot I'm looking at, that one I find easy to keep engaged. My other one just kind of flops open, does its own thing. But I want to work with keeping that little bit of posture through the hips. So we're kind of strengthening those like hip postural muscles that we gave a nice stretch to earlier. And then start to just walk those hands down, just real nice and gentle. If it's just like an inch or two that you fold forward, that is wonderful. If you're feeling it, then that's where I want you to hang out. So it's not about reaching for the foot or reaching the head down to the knee. I think sometimes we have these unrealistic expectations. I mean, if you have that natural flexibility really through the back, you're welcome to find your edge. But I release you from any of those wild expectations. Keep the back nice and flat if you're able to. You can still let the head drop, but let those shoulders still roll back and down. Maybe you find a bit more depth. And come back to the breath. Maybe here's a good opportunity to come back to that ujjayi breath, where you use those exhales to engage and keep those toes up, and those inhales to lengthen and relax. One more breath, let the head drop, let everything round, if you haven't done so already. Relax the jaw, the forehead. Checking in with those toes still. And let's come on up towards seated, just rounding up bit by bit. I'm going to plant those hands back behind me. Again, I'm actually going to bring them even wider. Take a good lean back and just lift that heart, arch through the back, keeping that chin just in control of the neck, just gently tucked. Big inhale. And an exhale, coming back up towards seated. Beautiful. I'm gonna remove the block from underneath me here. Excellent. And then making your way into an all fours position. Just for a little bit of extra movement here. Taking a little cat-cow, always a good thing to do. Saying hi to that spine, that back. Lots of times what goes along with hip pain and tension is low back pain and tension, and this is where that cat-cow. And if you really think about the tailbone and kind of that lower back getting some movement, as you take your angry cat, think about just stretching through that low back. And as you come into that cow or camel pose, and think about sending that tailbone right up towards the ceiling, feeling that extra arch through the spine. Moving through them both. Lots of times for a cat-cow, it can become all about the shoulders, but try to notice the hips happening here too. Notice that low back, that middle back, and everything below that bra line starting to create some movement. And then coming to stillness, let those knees come a little bit wider and let the feet come wider too. So mine have come to the edge of the mat, but yours don't have to, but just try to keep the legs parallel here. Excellent. And then let's take a little sit back. So it's a wide foot child pose. So whatever this looks like, I like this one. I'm starting on my forearms, just kind of aligning things and just kind of working towards sitting back. You're obviously not going to get those sits bones right back down, and I'm going to take a few just to kind of pulse it out and wake up into those hips. And just that sit back, and then bring those hips back over the knees. If this is really hard on the knees, add a little padding underneath there. And then maybe you come to that point of stillness. Beautiful. Let's rise on back up and pressing into those hands. Bring those knees back in nice and close to that neutral position, and take a little sway from side to side. So just kind of drop the hips over towards one side. Start to try to feel a stretch through that outer line of the hip. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. And switch over to that other side, let that hip press on out. And if you don't feel anything, that's when you can start to kind of gaze back towards the toes, thinking about getting more of a side body stretch through the opposite side of where you're going. Coming back to center. Let's take one more on that first side. And one more to that second side. Beautiful. Coming to that stillness. Start to tuck those toes under. I'll give you the option of a puppy pose, walking those hands up, but we're going to stay strong through the arms. So you can take this little bow down. Maybe you play with tucking the toes under, pressing into the hands. Maybe think about lifting one knee and then the next. Or your alternative is from here, lifting both knees and finding a downward dog. So however you want to work it, that's how engaged I want your arms to be if you're in your puppy pose. Think about really pressing the palms of the hands so that those knees can float on up. Beautiful. Bring those knees back down. And then take just a normal child's pose, whatever you want that to look like. You can hug those elbows in close to the knees. You can bring the forehead down. You can reach back for the heels, or even keep that stretch through the arms or the shoulders. And just a few little breaths here, finding that inhale and the exhale. Let's rise on back up. then let's make our way onto our backs, lying down again, bending those knees and planting the feet. Pressing that low back down. Rolling those shoulders back and down. Excellent. We'll take a little bridge pose here just to feel some strength through the legs and to use those glutes getting into those hips from the back line. So take an inhale and lengthen, and exhale, engage through that core, already set those core muscles ready to be used, and then float those hips up off the ground, pressing into the feet, into the shoulders. Maybe you link the hands underneath if you want a little more shoulder stretch and pull down. That always feels really beautiful through that heart center. Pressing into the heels, the ball of the foot, that outer edge of the foot. Imagine that strap around the knees and squeeze those glutes, engaging, setting those hips up a little bit higher. Let's hold here for 3, 2, 1. Release, roll it all the way down, bit by bit. Letting everything drop on down. Take a little windshield wiper, let those knees drop from side to side. Back to that stillness. Excellent. And let's cross that right ankle over the left thigh, but we're not going right into our figure 4. Just let that right hip relax. We're going to take a twist first. So reach those arms out wide, maybe making that T position, or they can be a little more in than that. Bring that left foot just to a touch of a hover so you can roll over onto that left hip, planting either that right foot down. Maybe you drop that right knee down towards the ground. Just start to feel your twist. There's different ways that you can plant the legs here. There's no official right or wrong version of it. It's where are you feeling it and where do you want to feel it. I find if I just plant that right foot right down onto the ground and that knee right up towards the ceiling, I get a little bit of a nicer stretch so that IT band, that outer hip area, which for me is always just so tight. I'm a side sleeper, but I really only sleep on one side of my body. So one side is always tighter than the other, and there's always imbalance there. So this is a great way for me to stretch. But if you'd rather get more into the back, more into the twist of things, that's when you start to think about rolling more onto that. Just be mindful of that right shoulder, that hand can tuck in. As you just roll a little deeper, feel how now the spine is twisting more. You got deeper into the twist. So whether you want the hips or the back, taking a breath. Holding here, letting that stretch deepen. Maybe you adjust a little. Maybe you involve the neck, starting to think about changing where the gaze is more over towards the right. Or thinking about bringing that right ear down towards the mat. There's lots of other twists going on. So just being mindful through that neck. And start to bring that head back up slowly if you added on the twist there. And then we'll work on unwinding the legs, coming back. So good. Planting that left foot down, bringing that right ankle onto the leg, so it's still that nice figure 4 shape. And then let's come into that full figure 4, maybe floating that left foot off the ground, holding onto the legs, or throwing a block or a stool underneath. Letting that right hip really get a little bit of love. Calming the breath. Finding your favorite version. Maybe it's a rock from side to side. Maybe it's a pulse in and out. Maybe it's stillness. Or that left foot up to the ceiling. Whatever you love. Taking this just for a few breaths. Not a long hold here. Taking an inhale to lengthen through the spine, little tuck of that chin. Take an exhale, maybe find just a touch more depth, find that edge just for a moment. And then start to release, plant that left foot right on back down, uncross. Windshield wiper, hug the knees in or send the legs long. Take what you want, what you need. I'm going to take a good morning stretch, just finding some length here. And coming back to those knees bent on the ground. No, those knees, yeah, knees bent, feet on the ground. And let's come to that other side. So bring that left ankle on top of right leg, and that left knee open. Reach those arms out. Thinking about coming into that twist. So that right foot just ever so slightly hovers off the ground as you roll onto that right side. Maybe that left foot plants down. Maybe it's just the right side. Maybe you plant the foot on top of the right leg. That's a little bit more gentle of a variation. Or you can throw blocks under wherever you need to if you have them. Feeling into this side of the body, finding those sweet spots. Always those adaptations of the knee up to ceiling or down towards the ground. Noticing just where can you soften through the body here. Do you feel any additional squeezing or tension that maybe you can just let go of? And adjusting the twist however you want. Last time I got the nice IT band stretch and then I threw in the deeper twist right at the end. Maybe you add in that neck stretch, letting that left ear drop down just a bit or a lot, finding that sweet spot on your neck. Breathing in, breathing out, releasing the neck back up towards center, and gently unwinding that twist. Maybe you do it so that the leg is still crossed over, or not if you uncross them. Then just plant that left leg back on top of the right leg. And taking that little reclined pigeon, that right leg floats up, catching however you want. Tops of the knees or threading through or even supporting that right foot. Let those shoulders relax. One more breath in here. On that exhale, maybe you find that edge, adding just that touch of depth. And then taking that release, let that right foot plant on back down, uncross. Extend the legs long or hug them into the chest. Now let's all extend them long. Take a nice good stretch here. I'm going to take that starfish stretch from earlier, but maybe you bring your hands and feet together, your choice. And then bring those knees in towards the chest, finishing off with that good old happy baby. Taking that little rock from side to side. And then of course any other poses or movements you want to take and start to explore that. Anything you need before we take a little shavasana. I'm going to take some hip circles or some knee circles. Just get into that hip socket one more time. But anything else you want. We've got about 3 or 4 breaths worth of time here for you to explore some movements. But if you just want shavasana and start to find that final pose. If you want to play around, then you play around. Starting to think about settling the body into some stillness. Coming back to that focus on the breath. Deepening those inhales, using that diaphragm space. Softening, letting the body relax more on those exhales. Taking the shape you need for your final posture. Maybe you do a little scan through the body, just letting there be awareness from an hour ago until now. And breathing in, breathing out. Remembering that intention from the beginning of class. Maybe you release it, letting it go as we draw near to the end of practice, thinking of a new intention that better serves the rest of the day. And then starting to take some little movements, coming back into those sensations of the body, being aware of the soles of the feet, breathing deep into the feeling without touching the cuticle and the hands, feeling each each one of the hairs on the head. Just letting the body feel alive. Maybe you give yourself a nice big hug for that good when we stretch. And then rolling onto your side, finding that little fetal position, a gentle bend to the knees. Use that bottom arm as a pillow. And take your time to roll over. Taking a big breath in. And a big breath out. And making your way up to a seated position. We'll take a cleansing breath. And that exhales out whatever you need to release. So getting ready, take that nice big inhale. Take a big old exhale, side out. Take two more, big breath in. Big breath out. Last one, inhale. And exhale. Sitting up nice and tall, lengthening. Taking that exhale, roll the shoulders back and down. And letting the hands just rest on the knees. Or maybe they come up to heart center. Thinking of something you can be grateful for. May the rest of your day be filled with joy, and may you always be blessed. Namaste. Amazing. Hope your hips feel happy. See you on the next video.